Have you ever found something so strange that it made your brain hurt just thinking about it? In a dusty library corner sits a book that's driving the world's smartest people absolutely crazy. It's not written in any language we know. It's not in code. It's not even random scribbles. This book, the Rohonc Codex, is something else entirely, and it's about to melt your mind. Picture creating the most complicated secret language ever. Now make it 10 times more complex. That's still not as wild as what we're dealing with here. This book uses 792 different symbols to tell its story. For comparison, you're reading this with just 26 letters. Even ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs only used about 1,000 symbols for their entire civilization. This book is doing something that shouldn't be possible. The story gets even stranger. Scientists can tell us exactly when the paper was made. It came from Venice in the 1530s. They know this because papermakers back then left tiny marks in their paper, like an artist signing their work. But just because we know when the paper was made doesn't tell us when someone wrote on it. It's like finding an old piece of paper with mysterious writing. The paper might be new, but the message could be ancient. This isn't just any old book. It's massive. We're talking 448 pages filled with these bizarre symbols. But that's not all. Scattered throughout are 87 detailed illustrations that make things even more puzzling. These pictures show an incredible mix of different religious symbols. Christian crosses next to Muslim crescents, ancient sun symbols alongside drawings that look like they're telling stories. But what stories? That's where things get really interesting. The symbols themselves break all the rules of how languages work. Every known language on Earth follows certain patterns. Some letters show up more often than others. Words have typical lengths. Certain combinations of letters appear together. But the Rohonc Codex, it ignores all of these rules. It's like finding a piece of music that uses notes that shouldn't exist. What makes this truly mind-bending is that these symbols aren't random. They show clear patterns and organization, suggesting this was created with purpose and meaning. The text flows in a specific direction, right to left, then top to bottom. Pages are numbered, sections are clearly marked. Someone put an enormous amount of work into creating this book. But why make something so incredibly complex? What message was so important that it needed an entirely new system of writing to convey it? The physical book itself holds more clues. The paper is high quality, the kind used for important documents. The writing is careful and consistent throughout. Whoever created this wasn't just doodling. They knew exactly what they were doing. Every page, every symbol, every illustration was placed with purpose. This wasn't some random creation. It was a deliberate and massive undertaking. Decoding the impossible. Think about the most complex puzzle you've ever tried to solve. Now imagine that puzzle fighting back, changing its rules every time you think you've figured it out. That's what scientists face with the Rohonc Codex. Modern computers can translate hundreds of languages, crack military codes, and even understand ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. But this book? It laughs at our best technology. When researchers first tried to understand the text, they noticed something unusual. It reads from right to left, unlike most European books. This tiny discovery was huge. It meant someone deliberately chose to write differently from the normal way in medieval Europe. But why? The deeper scientists dig, the stranger things get. The illustrations scattered throughout the book tell their own baffling story. Some pages show scenes that look straight out of the Bible. People praying, religious ceremonies, battles. Others display astronomical symbols, maps, and diagrams that don't quite match anything we know from history. It's like looking at a history book from another dimension, where everything is just slightly off. Scientists have tried every trick in their arsenal. They've used computers to analyze how often each symbol appears. They've compared the patterns to every known language. They've even tried to match the illustrations to other medieval books. Two researchers, Kirali and Tokai, made an exciting breakthrough when they found what looked like biblical references hidden in the text. They think they've spotted paraphrases of New Testament passages and prayers to the Virgin Mary. But just when it seems like they're getting somewhere, the manuscript throws another curveball. What makes this even more fascinating is how the symbols work together. In normal writing, certain letters show up all the time, like E and T in English. But the Rohonc Codex doesn't follow these rules. Its symbols dance to their own mysterious rhythm, following patterns that shouldn't exist in any natural language. The really mind-bending part? The book shows signs of being incredibly well organized. Whoever wrote it wasn't just making things up as they went along. They had a system so complex that it's still outsmarting our most advanced technology centuries later. Think about that for a second. Someone in the 1500s created something so sophisticated that even our modern supercomputers can't figure it out. The historical context, more than just a code. But to really understand how extraordinary this is, we need to travel back in time to when this book was created. The 1530s were a wild time in European history. This was the Renaissance, when art, science, and new ideas were exploding across the continent. It was also a time of massive religious change and conflict, especially in Hungary, where the book was found. Imagine living in a time when three powerful cultures, Christians, Muslims, and ancient traditions, were all mixing together in one place. That's exactly what was happening in Hungary when this mysterious book appeared. People were sharing ideas, trading secrets, and sometimes fighting over their differences. It was like being at a giant marketplace of knowledge, where everyone brought something different to trade. The person who created the Rohonc Codex clearly knew about all these different cultures. They included symbols and ideas from each one, weaving them together in ways that nobody had seen before. But here's what's really interesting. They did this at a time when mixing different religious ideas could get you in serious trouble. It's like they were trying to hide something really important in plain sight. Recent research suggests the book might have been created around 1593, right when Hungary was caught between different empires fighting for control. This timing isn't random. Think about it. If you had something really important to say, but saying it openly could be dangerous, wouldn't you want to find a clever way to hide your message? The way this book was made tells us something important about its creator. The paper wasn't cheap. It was the kind used for important documents. The writing is incredibly neat and consistent throughout all 448 pages. This wasn't some quick project. Someone spent months, maybe years, carefully crafting every single page. They weren't just writing a book. They were creating something meant to last. But why go to all this trouble? Why create something so complex that even hundreds of years later, with all our amazing technology, we still can't crack its code? Some scientists think the book might be more than just a secret message. It could be an experiment in creating a completely new way of writing. Others wonder if it might contain knowledge that was too dangerous to write down in normal language. The most fascinating part is how this book challenges everything we think we know about how humans communicate. Every known language developed slowly over time, with lots of people using it and changing it. But the Rohonc Codex appears to be a completely finished system, created all at once by someone with an incredible mind. It's like someone invented their own private language, but made it so complex that only they could understand it. As we continue studying this mysterious book, new technologies might help us understand more about its secrets. But maybe the real message isn't in the symbols at all. Maybe the Rohonc Codex is trying to tell us something about human creativity and the lengths people will go to preserve and protect knowledge. It stands as proof that even with all our modern advances, there are still mysteries from the past waiting to be solved.